Today, on Be Something Wonderful, make a conscious choice to live that incredible life now. I am your host, Tom Kearin, and this is the Be Something Wonderful studio of higher consciousness, where we help you level up and become the best version of yourself. Creators, welcome back. Big video this morning. I want to start with a client session yesterday. This is a client that I talk with from time to time over the last several months, and I haven't heard from her for a little while. But finally we had a session yesterday, and she said, Tom, I've been quietly leading my best life, or what she said, I've been quietly leading an incredible life. And I want to talk about this because I really wanted to say, what was it? What was the big thing that we can share with others that will help them? And part of it was, she said, it was that it really what clicked for me is the idea that I can choose, that I don't have to change anything. I can choose from infinity, from the infinite being that I am, what I want my life experience to be, what part of all that I am that I want to choose. So those sort of using the language that we use quite a bit on the channel. But when we had talked, she said, we talked about our first meetings, our first sessions. And part of it is that she was defending, she was arguing for her limitations. She goes, well, I'm choosing, but nothing's changing. Right? Nothing's changing. The same old conditions. She said, in fact, the conditions in many cases feel like they're getting worse as I choose. And we really unpack that in those days, in those first sessions. That, remember, she was choosing from that state of feeling separate from it, from feeling the lack and the wanting and needing it for something to change, not from feeling her oneness with it, her unity with that, right? She wasn't merging with it. She was feeling it as something separate from her. And she even mentioned, because we've been talking in the last few videos about this idea of this anomalous burst of energy, when you get this sort of new information and then you move immediately to the lifeline or film roll or reality of your desired end, right, with that anomalous burst. She said, in fact, Tom, I wanted to talk to you about this because when I saw that video, it reminded me that I felt like I had the opposite experience, that I moved to a reality that was opposite of what I wanted, right? That she had a shift, but it was to a shift to a lifeline or a film roll that was worse than her current circumstances. So I want to talk about that. This is the whole idea that Vadim Zeland talks about of an induced transition or an induced shift. And why would that happen? Well, remember, it's because she was creating a lot of importance on her desires by feeling separate from it, by feeling that she needs and wants it, wasn't feeling one with it, wasn't coming from the I am awareness that I am all realities, but was coming from I am not, and I really need this to be I am. Do you hear it? I am not who I want to be. And so I really need this to be who I want to be. That created that excess importance, right? That created that excess energy that moves you, that Vadim Zeland talks about, that creates an induced transition or an induced shift that moves you to a lifeline that appears worse or you're further away from what you want. I want to hit that idea today and more. But really what we talked about is your greatest gift is spirit, as I am awareness, as the Son of God, having a human linear horizontal experience, is your free will to choose that experience. Remember, you are that I am awareness, right? So within you are all experiences, all thoughts and feelings, all conditions, all desire, all manifested desires, all within you as potential. And you get to choose what part of all that is that you want to experience next. So, and remember, your I am awareness, it's that impersonal power. When we say impersonal, it doesn't mean cold and uncaring. It means that it only sees complete unity and love with everything and everybody, right? So it has that power, and if it only sees unity, it means it has all of infinity as resources to bring you what you want. Right? It chooses, in other words, that awareness, that great power within you, which sometimes remember, you're just consciousness. but part of what we call the subconscious is part of that. Subconscious is part of that. It accepts as true whatever you consciously choose, whatever you consciously assume as true. It accepts. It can't reject anything. That great subconscious within you, that great power within you. Some say, well, my subconscious rejected it. It doesn't reject anything. It doesn't have that power. You rejected it. Do you see it? Either consciously or unconsciously. I'm not saying subconsciously. Consciously, unconsciously, you rejected it. It accepts all that is true. That's part of its power. It doesn't discern things and say, no, Tom, that's impossible. That's too big of a, you're asking something, that's a big ask. God doesn't say, hey, that's a big ask. I can't do that. That's too big for me. It accepts all as true. It doesn't look at things what it's believable or true or false or believable or unbelievable. That's the power. With God, all things are possible. It's deductive, right? All power. It's infinite power. It's all potential. It's infinite potential. Wherever God is at all, the all of God must be. Wherever you are at all as a center of God consciousness, all of that power, all of that potential must be. It's holographic. So wherever it is at all of it is there, right? Whatever. You can't divide up God. You can't divide up that unity. You can't divide up that power. You can't divide up that all that isness. So wherever it is at all of it is there. It's the holographic nature of infinity, of God. Like a hologram, if you cut it up, the whole image is in every piece of it. You can't get away from that power. That power is who you are. That's your true nature. Right? But then you have that conscious you, right? That 3D you, that conscious self-awareness as a separate personality or identity. Where this doesn't see where that real you doesn't see anything as separate. That personality sees yourself as separate identity. Right? That's both, again, that me sees them or things, but that me can also be free, has the free will to consciously choose what they want to experience as part of that all that isnness. That's the power of being that self-conscious, self-aware 3D personality. Do you see it? So we beat on that personality a lot and say, oh, the 3D me. That 3D you gets that conscious choice to choose. And here's the thing, it chooses both deductively and inductively, where that awareness accepts all things, right? And will carry out anything you want that you consciously choose. You get to sort through things, but what you get to discern, what you get to choose what gets dropped into that great consciousness of yours, right? You get to choose what gets impressed, if you want to call it, when we talk about impressing the subconscious. You get to choose what's allowed in, right? As Scripture says, you're the shepherd, right? You get to decide what thoughts you're going to allow in, what thoughts you're going to believe, what thoughts you're going to assume, what assumptions you're going to make. You get to choose those assumptions. But also, you also think and reason deductively. That means you can accept as true whatever is out there, whatever anyone is saying, whatever the mass consciousness is believing. You can also absorb things deductively and believe them. And that's what we do with a lot of times. A lot of our assumptions, a lot of our beliefs, that we believe, we don't just believe them as assumptions or beliefs, we believe that they are reality. We don't believe that they're just assumptions or beliefs about reality. We accept these assumptions and beliefs as reality. And therefore that creates our life experience. But you get to consciously choose. That's your free will. That's your power. You do not have to accept those assumptions and beliefs that you've been believing a long time. It's really, what are beliefs, as Abraham Hicks and all the others say? They're just thoughts that you thought a lot about, that you've been thinking a long time, right? Assumptions that you make, core assumptions, core beliefs about reality that you confuse with reality. They're just about reality, but because we've been believing them so long, because we've been assuming them so long, because they appear so real to us, we confuse them with reality and believe we can't change them. This is really what I wanted to hit today, and more. Remember, how do you choose? That's always the question. How do we ask? Well, remember, the scripture gives us the secret. And I've talked about John 16:23 and 24 before with the teachings of Greg Braden, as he talks about the missing sentences that were edited out of the 4th century edits of the modern day Bible. I just want to hit this today. I'm not going to hit those videos. Those videos are on the channel, and you can, and I think if I haven't created a playlist, I will, and I can even put them in the description so you can find those. But I want to talk about whatever you ask the Father in my name, he will give to you. He will give you. This is the key to everything. Whatever you ask in the Father's name. In other words, we haven't been asking in the Father's name, in my name, right? Whatever you ask the Father in my name. This is what Jesus is saying as I am awareness. Whatever you ask in the nature of your I am, right? Because how would we generally ask? We ask from lack or need or wanting something to be different. Desperately wanting something to be different, as opposed to asking the Father, the great source within you, right? That source, you are source, that source, right? The Father, my name, he will give you. In other words, ask in the nature of I am, ask in the nature that you're of not being separate from it, right? Whatever you ask, there's no limits, there's no conditions, all things are possible. But we generally ask from feeling separate from it. But when you ask in my name or my nature, it's saying ask by feeling your unity with it, not separate from it. I am awareness, aware of already being that which you desire to be. Ask from that, right? Ask from that state of being. That's aware of self. Remember, it sees only unity. It sees everything is equally important and equally unimportant. That's what that great source within you, that great beingness, that great consciousness that creates, doesn't see anything as more important or less important. It only sees unity. So it doesn't create that importance that we create, right? All of a sudden something becomes important to us, right? Because we believe we need to have it to be complete. We need to have it to be whole. But that great unity within you, that I am awareness, only sees unity, only sees wholeness, sees that you don't need anything, right? Remember, whatever you ask the Father, what's the Father? Source, pure awareness, not aware of anything outside itself. It's the isness of the absolute reality. Within that isness, you can ask the Father in my name, in the nature of who you are. I am. That's what Jesus was saying. Ask in my name. In other words, don't feel separate from it. Ask by being aware that you already are it and you already have it. That you're merely choosing the experience in the 3D horizontal reality or experience of reality. Right? Because that great beingness only sees unity. Everything is equally important and unimportant. Everything is already, hear this, everything is already naturally present within it as potential. Or in other words, nothing is given excess potential or excess importance. These terms are going to become important in a little bit when I talk about reality transurfing. But to get you to really point out what Vadim Zeland was pointing at in reality transurfing. But remember, everything is already natural within you. That's your nature, I am. You're whole, complete, divine. All your desires are already within you in potential. And so it's about choosing them. There are no conditions, there are no limits. That you are one with the Father. I and my Father are one. You're one with your source. But the Father, that great source, that great isnness, that great pure awareness is greater than I, is greater than whatever I can be aware of. Do you see it? So everything's already naturally present within it or within you as potential. Right? Or in other words, nothing is given excess potential or excess importance. You don't have to give it excess potential or excess importance. It's all within you. But when we believe we're lacking it, when we believe we need it to be complete, that's when you move. That's what my client experienced 5 months ago, right? That's when you move to what you believe is a worse lifeline or worse conditions, right? That it's that induced transition or induced shift that Vadim Zeland talks about. Opposite of the anomalous burst of energy. And that shift of moving to the lifeline of your choice, having an instant manifestation. Do you see it? Why? Because everything's already naturally yours. And so when we desire something or really want something, we're feeling the lack of it. So we're trying to attract something to a place of where it doesn't exist. It doesn't, what you want or your desire doesn't exist in a state of lack. Do you see it? So if you're in a state of lack and you're desiring and wanting something, you're trying to attract something to a place where it doesn't naturally exist. It's not natural. It's not naturally there. Right? So when you know that you naturally have anything, then you're not attracting it. You're choosing it. That's power today. Just hold on to that for a second. In other words, everything is naturally present within you as that self-I am, as potential. There you are. Everything's already present in that I am awareness. So when you're feeling, when you are feeling you lack something, when you're desiring and wanting, you create excess importance. You create excess potential, trying to attract it to a place where it's not naturally present. Do you see it? You're all potential, right? You are all of it. You are everything is equally important and not important to Source because it's all unity. It sees everything as the same. It doesn't feel separate from it. So when you want and desire something, you're creating that separation. You're creating that excess importance where it doesn't exist, that excess potential where it doesn't exist. You're already all potential. Do you see it? That's why Vadim Zeland calls it, in reality transurfing, calls it an induced transition or a shift to a lifeline, a film roll or a parallel reality that mirrors that non-fulfillment or that mirrors that lack that you're feeling within. That's what happens. In other words, you become less aware of your true nature. Remember we talked about what's the real meaning of being positive or positivity. And the real meaning of degrees of positivity means being more aware of your I am, aspiring to that higher nature of yours, the naturalness of who you are, that I am. And when you're less aware of it, so when you're more aware of I am, you're vibrating higher, right? That's a higher vibration. That's what it means. And of course, you're going to have more positive, elevated thoughts. But as you're less aware of your true nature, you move further away from that idea of who you are or from what you really want. Therefore, so in other words, you become less aware of your true nature, the real you, and therefore you reflect a lower degree of positivity or vibration. And you move to a reality that matches or corresponds with that state of being or identity. That's what an induced transition is. Do you see it? You're feeling that lack. You're feeling less aware of who you are, less positive, that degree of positivity. And as a result, that will translate into 3D feelings that we call negative or not your true nature. You see it? And you reflect a lower degree of positive vibration and you move to that lower vibrational reality. That becomes what you see. That becomes all you see. Right? Remember, here you are. It's within you, but you feel separate from it. But it's right here. It's all you. But you feel it's over here what you want and desire. But it's here. It's within you, but you feel lack and separation. Therefore, you desire it. You want it from a place of not already being it, from not already having it. You create this excess potential where you're already all potential. You create this excess importance where everything's important, everything's equally important and unimportant. You're the one that creates this excess energy, right? This excess energy that moves you. Remember, it's not excess in the sense that you are all energy, you are all source, but it creates that experience. It moves you to that unfavorable or that lower vibrational experience or lifeline or film roll. That's power. Do you see that, guys, today? The induced transition or shift is kind of an opposite to that anomalous burst of energy that we talked about in the previous videos. I'm leaving links to the last few previous videos because they all connect. That moves you to your desired reality, right? That anomalous burst of energy. The anomalous burst of energy, remember, opens the conscious mind. This is what Vadim Zeland says, where you become more aware, right? To the sectors of the alternative space that lie at a great distance from those that are currently realized materially. In other words, you're more aware of your I am. You're aspiring more to your true nature, right? When you start when you start having assumptions around that I am nature. And it creates that burst of energy that opens your conscious mind more to sectors of the alternative space or infinity that lie at a great distance from those that are currently realized material. You move instantly to your desired reality. Whereas in the opposite, what my client experienced 5 months ago, right? And we're going to talk about her ideal life now and how she's living it and what happened. Whereas in an induced shift, it closes the conscious mind. In other words, you become less aware to sectors where your desires come true and your wishes are fulfilled. Do you see it? How this induced transition is like the opposite of that anomalous burst of energy that moves you immediately to what you want. It moves you further away, right? You're less aware. You're less positive in the degree of positivity of who you are. You're vibrating at a lower frequency, and so you move to a sector where your dreams don't come true, where your wishes aren't fulfilled, right? Further away, you're increasingly less aware of your true nature as I am. That lower degree of positivity and vibration, right? Versus the anomalous burst of energy, where you're increasingly more aware of your true nature as I am, and higher degree of vibration, right? Of persisting in that reality. So I want to talk about this because some of you mentioned, well, some of you now will wait for that burst of energy. You don't have to wait for anything. That's why imagining and affirming and or merely just assuming and making a choice. When you make a choice, a firm intention to choose your reality, from that knowing of being more aware of your true nature, that automatically creates that burst of energy within you. You don't have to wait for anything. You just got to make a choice. And remember, that's God's gift to you, the free will to choose. When you choose from that conviction within of I am, you're moving, for sure. Do you see that? So it's that being increasingly less aware causes that induced transition or shift to unfavorable realities, or what you would say is unwanted, versus the anomalous burst of energy where you're more aware who you are, where you're making a choice. Here, you're making a choice in both cases, but here you're making a choice from feeling lack or separate from it. Here you're making a choice of knowing that there's only unity, that there's only I am awareness, that you're one with it. Do you see the difference there? Making a conscious choice, asking in my name, nature, I am, in the name of God, in the name of Jesus Christ, in the name of my name, in the name of my nature, in the name of who you truly are. In other words, asking from that point of view, that vantage point, that everything's already yours, it's already within you. An assumption to be who you desire to be and have what you desire to have without excess importance, without excess potential, but with the knowing that I am of Scripture. I am God and there is no other. In other words, with the awareness of your true self. When you do that, it provides the anomalous burst of energy, that innate energy within you as I am, to move you instantly or near instantly to your desired reality or film role or parallel alternative reality, unless it's neutralized by doubt or by fear or by worry or by confusion. Right? But all that makes no sense when you know the truth of who you really are. So yes, but again, you're always instantly in that reality. You're not always seeing it immediately, but you're always there. And you can do this by imagining your wish fulfilled, by making a choice, a conscious choice to be of what you want to experience, knowing that you already are that. So that's what we're talking about here. And I like the way Dr. Joe Dispenza, one of the subscribers, sent me a note of this quote. I love this quote and reminded me of it, how it fits in with the last few lessons. I wanted to bring it up here. This is what Dr. Joe says. In order to change beliefs or perceptions, what is he saying? In other words, in order to change your assumptions, your root assumptions, your core assumptions, which you believe to be reality. Do you see it? What you believe to be reality. You're confusing your assumptions and beliefs with reality. Reality is just I am, your awareness, all things are possible. But we have these core assumptions, beliefs that we believe in. We see reality as these assumptions. We see reality as these beliefs. We confuse ultimate reality with our beliefs and assumptions. So what he says, Dr. Joe says, in order to change those beliefs or perceptions about yourself and about your life, you have to make a decision with such firm intention. Wow, I love this. In other words, choose with conviction from the awareness of I am that I am, from that greater awareness, that the choice carries an amplitude of energy. In other words, an anomalous burst of energy, what we've been talking about, that is greater than the hardwired programs in the brain and the emotional addiction in the body. And the body must respond to that new mind. In other words, greater than your subjective tendencies to feel and react in the same way. Do you see it? That it's those subjective tendencies that are created by those assumptions and beliefs that you have just accepted as true, as reality. Without it, they feel so true to you. They feel so real as reality, you don't even question them anymore. But that's what you have as the conscious 3D being you are. Remember, the I am is your true reality. But through that personality, you can consciously question those assumptions. You can consciously choose. And when you do it with that conviction, with that firm intention, that's great. When you're greater than your conditions, when you're greater than your environment, as Dr. Joe says, right? When you're greater than your thoughts and feelings about reality, you can move, you can make that choice and move to your desired reality. That choice in itself is built in as that anomalous burst of energy. It's built into your choice, right? You can make a choice. In other words, you can be greater than those subjective tendencies to react or feel or think in the same way. That's powerful today. So this client that I talked to, what happened? I might have pointed out this in earlier videos of similar clients who went through this, but she had assumptions and subjective tendencies. She was creating her reality from a view, because what we talked about was a SP or a specific person, but no one in particular. Just that she said all her relationships fail. Either she breaks up or they break up immediately. That they don't even go beyond a month. When we talked, right? Her relationships never went on beyond a month. And when we talked about it, that was her assumptions or beliefs about relationships, right? Her dad and mom divorced and remarried, both of them, several times. No relationship really lasting. She had this belief or assumption all relationships end in pain or separation, right? And so they end up pain, and therefore she'll end it or they'll end it early because no one wants to experience pain. It's pain avoidance, right? We want to seek pleasure. So she had that deductive assumption, that deductive reasoning, right? She was allowing that assumption or that deductive nature of her, because remember, she can decide deductively or inductively what to allow in. But that great subconscious within her was already making a decision for her because she consciously wasn't. She's saying, this is a relationship. Remember, this was all happening within her based on an assumption. And that means if that's a relationship, all relationships end early and in pain. So I'm going to end that relationship. Do you see it? That all relationships end. So if this is a relationship that I'm getting to, that must end too in pain. So I'm going to end it now or they're going to end it. Right? This is just her being more aware, more present. I am that I am. She's decided that she's going to make that choice, that she is not those assumptions, that she's not those beliefs, that she's not those subjective tendencies, right? And she stopped reacting in the same way, knowing the thoughts and feelings are not reality. She now says, this is great news, going on 5 months now, she's in a relationship. 5 months. 4 months longer than any relationship she's ever had. So she has created these new assumptions, right? She made a choice. Ooh, I get a chill when I say that. She made a choice to move and had that anomalous burst of energy and started moving to that lifeline or film role of her dreams, or that lifeline where she's living her best life, or that incredible life. She's living that life now, right? Going on 5 months where she previously didn't even get, she said she didn't even get, the relationships didn't even get out of the gate. Or she would end it, or they would end it, right? Not even a month in. What happened? She started choosing without the excess importance, without the excess potential, without the induced transitions, without believing in those assumptions or those subjective tendencies that all relationships must end in that way. She started calling the bluff on those assumptions, on those beliefs, right? That she was seeing as reality as opposed to just beliefs about reality. That's powerful. That's how you make your conscious choice and live. Make a conscious choice to live that incredible life now. I am your host, Tom Kearin, and this is the Be Something Wonderful studio of higher consciousness, where we help you level up and become the best version of yourself. Creatives, thank you. Thank you for being with me. Thank you for liking and sharing and commenting on the videos. Thank you for being part of our Facebook group. It's growing at facebook.com/groups/Be Something Wonderful. Those are the Be Something Wonderful ambassadors, where you can share insight and guidance with others and ask for insight and guidance. Thank you for being part of our Instagram and Twitter at Tom Kearin, and our membership channel, where it's growing. If you're a member, thank you for joining. If you're not, check it out. We just released a video, I think yesterday or the day before. I don't remember now. We just released it, a big video on the membership channel. I think there's a link in the description. If not, I'll link just so you can check it out or see, at least be pointed to the channel. And also, we're going to plan another live stream. So another live stream on the membership channel, exclusively on the membership channel. So you can start sending your questions, because this is where we go live here from Las Vegas. I'm live with you on a Sunday morning at 9 in the morning, where I answer your questions. You can send those questions to info@besomethingwonderful.com. Creators, with great love, with great light, and infinite gratitude, this is Tom with Be Something Wonderful. We'll see you soon.